Hi guys, this is Isha from the Observational Astrologer. I wanted to make a quick video about the sidereal planetary positions in the sky right now. So I'm not going to talk about the April planetary news, but obviously some of the planetary positions will be significant to the month of April. But this is more of a general look at what's happening in the sky. So if we open up the a Prashna chart for the 30th of March, um, as you can see, we have a seven planetary conjunction happening in the sign of Pisces. This is just at the crux, sort of the end of March, beginning of April, sort of 29th, 30th of March was the solar eclipse. We had Moon, Sun, retrograde Mercury, retrograde Venus, Rahu, and Shani in the sign of Pisces and Ketu in the sign of Virgo. This was the last eclipse that took place in the axes, sort of almost moving into Leo and Aquarius. But solar eclipses happen. I think there are two or three solar eclipses that happen every single year. So why is the solar eclipse this year so significant? Lots of people are making videos about it. And I think, other than the fact there are so many planets sort of conjoined in the sign of Pisces and uh, effectively sort of like opposing forces and too much energy in one Rashi, it's the fact that Shani has moved sign. It's moved from the sign of Aquarius into the sign of Pisces. And this is significant. Now, Saturn takes 28 and a half years to travel all across the 12 rashis of the zodiac. And the last 2.5 years, Shani was in its own sign of Aquarius, and 2.5 years before that, it was also in its own sign of Capricorn. So Shani has been in a position of strength over the last like five years or so. And now it's come into the sign of Pisces, which is ruled by Jupiter. It's the natural 12th house of the Kalapurush Kundali. Um, and it's interesting to think about what Shani is going to bring for all of us in the sign of Pisces. So if we look at what happens to individuals, everyone's um, experience of Shani in Pisces will differ significantly depending on their chart, depending on where their moon is, where their significant planets are. There will be people like people with Aries moon that are starting their Sade Sati. People with Capricorn moon, congratulations, Sade Sati is over. But there could be other positions. You could be having Saturn transiting your fourth house. You could be having Kantaka Shani. It could be in your eighth house, Ashtama Shani, etc. So, rather than going into individual charts, let's have a quick look at what is happening to the world at large by looking at what happened when Saturn was in Pisces 28 and a half years ago. So I'm just going to look on my phone because I've made some notes to see what happened. So the last time Saturn was in Pisces was between 1996 and 1998. And if we look at some of the key trends and key themes that occurred at that time, we see that that was the time, I think 97 was the time, that there was the Asian financial crisis. The Asian financial crisis. So it was a major economic downturn that hit like Thailand, South Korea, Indonesia, and it led to market instability. We had major geopolitical changes. Hong Kong was handed back to China, historic event after it had been under British rule for over 150 years, I think. Google was founded, so major technological advancements. Um, India and Pakistan, I believe, had nuclear tests, so it was the first time. Bill Clinton was impeached on the political front, something that no one could have foreseen or thought. You know, such a significant political leader with such a following was impeached. A very very public and shameful, a difficult time for him. Impeachment that followed. Dolly the sheep was cloned, and also the Titanic movie came out. Interesting to think about the Titanic movie because on a in layman terms, the Titanic has a very strong Shanian in Pisces or Shanian Meena theme because it had a nautical theme about a big ship, and there's a major Shani theme of sorrow and difficulty and a lot of people dying. And in addition to that, if you read about the Titanic, or if you've watched the movie, then you know that another key shunny theme is that the people that built the Titanic and rode on the Titanic, and you can see this in the movie, were very, very arrogant. There was this idea that the ship is unsinkable, nothing will ever happen to her. It's a historic moment in history, and unfortunately, the ship hit an iceberg, which no one could have predicted, and the people on board who were in charge, they were just completely caught completely unprepared. There were no rescue boats, and which led to the unfortunate death of scores and scores of people. So definitely has a very sorrowful theme of Shani being in Pisces. If we go a cycle prior to that, in the late 60s, uh, Saturn was in Pisces 1966 to 1968. So I think big picture, this was the time of counterculture and protests. And there was a lot of like anti-war and civil right movement involved. So we had, there were protests against the Vietnam War. Um, there was Czechoslovakia had a failed democratic uprising against the Soviet Union, which still existed at the time. There were sort of student protests in France. There were major political assassinations. So um, uh, Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. Robert F. Kennedy was assassinated. So major shifts in U.S. politics. This was also the time of the Beatles, so psychedelics and hippie culture. Again, very much, if you think of pop culture astrology, very much sort of that Pisces theme. There was also sort of advancements in space and science. So um, there was the moon landing in 1996 and the Apollo mission. So lots of Saturn and Pisces themes. If we go on a cycle prior to that as well, that was 1936 to 1938. This was again a time of major geopolitical tension and the lead up to World War II, which ran from 1939 to 1945. We had the Spanish Civil War between 1936 and 39. I think Japan invaded China in 1937. There were, I think, there were attacks against Jewish people and the sort of events that heralded the Holocaust soon after. Um, there was a violent Nazi attack as well. So as we see that there was a lot of these themes went towards um, on the one hand collectivist thinking, which is Pisces and spirituality, where people are coming together, protesting against war or through music of the Beatles or what it might be. And on the other hand, you have this very different um, sort of harsh theme of Saturn and Pisces, which causes geopolitical tensions, countries annexing one another, major information about political leaders coming to light, whether it's specific wrongdoing on their part or it's through assassinations, as well as financial themes, be it the Asian financial crisis, etc. So, what do we think Saturn in Pisces is going to do from 2025 to 2027? I'd be keen to hear your thoughts about it. But personally, I think on a technological standpoint, we're already seeing the advancement of AI, which is likely to create instability in the workforce. So there are a lot of jobs. Lots of people are talking about this already. There are a lot of jobs that are mundane in nature, which AI can do a lot better, a lot easier, a lot cheaper. A lot of businesses are cutting headcount, um, cutting back, and using AI and technology where possible. So there is a challenge for humanity and people to pivot and try and see where we as humanity can add value, whilst at the same time taking advantage of the efficiency that technology brings. Um, Geopolitical changes, less said the better. I mean, yes, the whole Ukraine Ukraine war, we know where it is, where it's at the moment, not entirely concluded, but very much at a stalemate. We've got President Trump threatening to annex Greenland, which will have huge geopolitical changes. China could annex Taiwan, for all we know. So we're sort of at a brink of major geopolitical changes as well. And there is the advent of a lot of sort of extreme political leaders around the world. So it'll be interesting to see how this turns out in the next 2.5 years. I just thought I'd make a quick video listing out the key changes that had occurred in the previous cycles. If you have any ideas, you're welcome to DM me or pop some ideas into the comments. Thank you.